You're listening to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast with Mike Chappell and Dave Griffiths.
Inside the Fox 59 CBS 4 podcast studio, welcome to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast. Alongside Mike Chappell and Matt Adams, I'm Dave Griffiths. Glad to have you along as the Colts wrap up the offseason program this week with mandatory minicamp. And fortunately, there are no known holdouts. There is no Jonathan Taylor is still recovering,
somewhere,
air quotes, from his ankle injury that takes 6 weeks to get better from, that you had surgery of back in February. That's gone. That is no more. Instead, there's there is some other drama. Unfortunately, it's not a perfect end to the offseason program, but we'll discuss that at length. A couple more Pro Football Focus lists if we have time to get to that. But we will begin with mandatory minicamp here to close out the offseason program after June 6th. Last year, the Colts even ended it a day early, so we're taping this right in the middle of minicamp.
We were talking,
it's just the best time for us.
Might they end it and not go Thursday?
We'll see. It doesn't matter.
It's already
purposes.
A shorter off-season workout than normal, so
yes.
I just don't think.
Well, that's what I said last year. It was already shorter than normal. They did it anyway. That's what we said last year. The Colts lose their first game of the year every season. They don't seem to be ready for the start of the season, yet they get rid of some practice in the offseason, and yet they still do it.
But I'm totally expecting, for my work schedule, I'm planning on them not practicing tomorrow. So right. I'm getting my work done today in case I need to make up for tomorrow. So, right. But we'll see.
Yes, that's where we have that in more than the back of our mind as we tape this podcast, that it could end a day early. The offseason program, unfortunately, ended a week early for safety Daniel Scott. For the second year in a row, he suffered a season-ending injury. Last year it was his ACL. This year an Achilles. And, Chap, we were just talking. We saw it happen. Well, we didn't see the play. We saw them bring the medical card out and him drive away last week. Neither of us tweeted about it because we weren't 100% positive it was Daniel Scott. It looked like him from a distance, but didn't want to throw the people into disarray out there. But nevertheless, for a guy who was not a headliner of last year's draft, he's just a fifth-round pick, but he was a athletic headliner of that incredibly athletic RAS score draft. He was he was right up there with Juju Brents and Anthony Richardson in like the high 9.9s in terms of how athletic he was. But for the second year in a row, he has a very serious injury, and something that is obviously a strength of his athleticism. It has to be questionable moving forward after two injuries that are this serious, that require major surgery, that you have to miss entire seasons of football. It's devastating for him early in his career. Yeah,
you hope he'll keep he's young and he'll attack this the right way. But Julian Blackmon came back from a couple of major injuries. We were talking before we went on the air, Matt and I, about this is sort of a blow to the safety position, which tells you the status of the safety position. This is Daniel Scott's a guy that they had high hopes on. Didn't play last year, but he was in their plans. I went back and looked at some quotes from Chris Ballard. I think it was after the season was over, and we were asking him about the safety position. He said, it's really unfortunate that Daniel Scott missed the season, but we're excited to have him back. And for all the things you said, smart, athletic, and fast, and good size. I wrote about it yesterday on our websites, and we've beat this to death. It cries out for a veteran signee. It just does. Julian Blackmon, fine. He's a very, very good player. And then the other safety spots, Nick Cross and Rodney Thomas II. It just is. Ronnie Harrison is sort of that movable part. But they've got the cap space. They've got a needed position. I would just hate to be sitting here in November. Oh, shoot, September. Saying, boy, I wish we would have signed somebody. Mm-hmm. And there's some really, really good options out there that aren't going to cost you that much at this point in the offseason.
That you can just sign for this 1 year.
It'll be 1 year.
Exactly.
It's just going to be what will they play for. And at this point, you just don't get the Justin Jefferson type money. You don't get anything close to that. So
right.
We'll see. And it doesn't, to sign a guy today doesn't matter. they've already missed all the offseason work. But over the next month, I just think they need to sign a veteran safety.
And the question in the scouts and in general manager Chris Ballard's mind, Matt, has to be like, how much do I trust Nick Cross? I think because I think you know what Rodney Thomas is at this point, because his rookie year he got so much experience. He's out there as a 7th round pick. He's starting basically every week. Last year things caught up to him as a sophomore in the NFL, and I think that in the future they really would love for Nick Cross to be that guy, and Chris Ballard thought he would. The fact that he traded up to get him. So that's the question that they have to answer. Is Nick Cross ready now to take the step that we hoped he would take when he drafted him as a 20-year-old 2 years ago?
Yeah, and I mean, all indications are right now the answer is no. So, I mean, at least from our standpoint, got to go out and get something, a veteran. You know, it would be great if they could find unearth a Mike Adams or a Rodney McLeod to just kind of give you some depth, solidify things. And maybe Nick Cross does take that step this year, but you can't necessarily bank on it.
Boy, how great was Mike Adams? You sign him, and then all of a sudden he's a 2-time Pro Bowler. With this late,
he signed like the day before the veteran minicamp in June that year, and then he was just one of their best all time sign, and he was a great guy too.
Yep.
So yeah, because the thing was, Rodney Thomas was the guy. He started the first 14, 15 games last year, and then he played 3 defensive snaps the last 2 games when Nick Cross took over. So, and they had problems. I mean, the first play against Houston in week 18.
Yep.
The deep ball where there's no safety help, and there had to be safety help planned. You just don't put Juju out there on an island like that. So we'll see. There's a lot of not a lot. There's some areas you'd like to see something develop. I'd love to see Jelani Woods emerge at tight end, which that's what they want so bad. But so many spots are just not a lot of. I don't say controversy, but speculation. The offensive line is set. Defensive line is set. Receivers, set. I'll tell you, watching AD Mitchell out there, he's a player. We talked to him yesterday, and you stand next to him, and he's a big dude. He's listed at 6'3". He's every bit of 6'3".
He's not one of those he's maybe 6'1".
No. He's put together, and he's making catches. He had a great back of the end zone extension, toe tap. He's going to be an interesting player. And we talked to Alec Pierce, who missed yesterday for some reason. We don't know why. But that's sort of those players are sort of the same role, I guess. So, but safety's the one, that position. Boy, they just do something.
More questions than any other position, perhaps on the roster. Even in cornerback, if you want to put them both together, cornerback, there's still some kind of argument.
I could argue the cornerback. Okay, you saw something. You're going to get these guys back, and Juju Brents is going to actually practice.
Yeah.
Safety, I just don't feel that.
Exactly, and it's the free safety position specifically, because strong safety, it's Julian Blackman.
Julian Blackman.
You know that, obviously. But if there's one position on the field right now for the Colts with all 22 starters returning, technically, yes, that free safety position is still going to be up in the air. So Daniel Scott out for the season. A couple other injuries to note as the Colts are getting through this mandatory minicamp to close out the offseason program. Michael Pittman Jr. still not participating. Last week, Shane Steichen said, could he practice if he needed to? Yeah, something to that extent. So this is let's keep Pitt healthy. Let's give
precautionary.
Let's give AD Mitchell a few more reps here that he might not have in the meantime, because it would probably be still, if everyone's healthy, Pitt and Pierce and Josh Downs at this point.
Who's looked good. Yes. Josh Downs has looked good too.
So like I said, give AD some time. Give him some reps. Give him some experience. There is no downside to that right now, because Pitt, you think, is he'll be able to catch up in the.
He's missing reps, but he'll get caught up, and they'll probably throw in the off season.
Right.
Somewhere in July, somewhere in Florida, whatever. So they'll get their work done.
Yeah, no doubt. So I wouldn't be worried about that. Also sitting out, Braden Smith still from his off-season surgery.
See you in July.
Right, exactly. We'll see you later, Braden. Ashton Doolin from his season-ending injury last year. What was that? Was that
an ACL?
ACL. ACL still out.
Training camp,
right now.
non-contact.
He'll be back in training camp, we expect. Chris Lamons, at cornerback, has not been participating out there either. All returning to the field from missing the last week of OTAs. Jonathan Taylor, Dio Dangbo, Mo Ali Cox, and Segun Olubi were all back on the field. We saw Mo last week. He was just standing there with Michael Pittman Jr.
He had something.
Yeah, exactly something. And Dio came back from his wedding, or not his wedding, his wedding.
But the thing with and we always make a lot out of it. Sometimes we should, sometimes we shouldn't. If a player is dealing with anything during these OTAs and minicamp, they don't practice. If you've got a hamstring that just it's got a little twinge to it, you're not going to practice. So maybe that's what an Alec Pierce has. Something was just a little tight. So a lot of these don't make a big deal. Again, Braden Smith, it's kind of very clear he won't practice until training camp, and this is given Blake Freeland.
Yep,
he's the guy right now. Which he held up okay last year. They put him in an awful situation, so he could use the work. Kind of like AD, a guy being out gives this guy more time, more reps with the first team.
There's no substitute for game reps for playing in the NFL season, but if you can't do it right now, you might as well give them more opportunity in the offseason. It's not hurting them. It is helping them, even though it doesn't help as much as those game reps, like I said. So it sounds like you mentioned that Richardson and AD Mitchell, in the meantime, are trying to build some chemistry together since Pittman is out, is getting some more opportunity to do so. Mitchell spoke with the media just the other day.
He's going to be a great quote for us.
Good.
He is.
That's what we like to hear. Saying that Anthony Richardson is a freak, like a creative player. Like you go into Madden. No, seriously. Like that's kind of how you view Anthony Richardson. You go into Madden, you create 6'5", 220 pounds. Rocket arm, faster than everyone else.
Except up to 99.
Except that player would never exist.
Except he's 250.
Yeah, exactly.
So but you're right.
So excuse me, I was even shortchanging.
He's not Tua.
Yeah,
he did say he was 255 on the Pat McAfee Show.
Right. So that's also funny. Like he goes on the McAfee Show and he I don't know if you saw any of the video behind the scenes stuff, but he just goes and shakes his hand, introduced, and Pat's like looking up at him, is like, dude, you shouldn't be as fast as you are. You're an alien, man. That was funny to
and
see
the thing that
interaction.
Mitchell said too, again, it's going to be a great quote, because he said, I asked him about Reggie Wayne. He said, well, he spits the truth. So I've got to get more into today's lingo. Mm-hmm. But he just said that with Richardson, that you see something new every day, something that you haven't seen before. And this is a guy that's played college ball at a high level. He says every day with Richardson, you just see things that, hey, man, I haven't seen that before. Mm-hmm. And this is a quarterback, and we'll get into it maybe later in later podcasts. We haven't seen even close to what Richardson can do. We've seen 4 games. We've seen what amounts to 3 full games with time missed, and I've been pretty impressed. I've been intrigued by what I've seen so far. We haven't seen remotely what this guy can do. We've sort of seen, I don't say the floor, but we haven't seen the ceiling at all, because he hasn't played extended minutes. Mm-hmm. So these players are seeing it on the practice field, and, man, you just knock on wood and you hope that the guy stays on the field, because he can be special.
Yeah, when you open up that swath of opportunities for him to use his talents, you're expecting to see great things because he has those great talents. It's courts on the coaches to hone him into making the correct decisions there. So every time you open up the opportunities for a young player, Matt, it's everything the chap said, 100%, and that's why Colts fans are and should be excited for the season. But it also, of course, if you're playing consistently game after game and he's in there for snap after snap and facing defense after defense, coverage after coverage, there's chances for all those great things. There's also chances for scary things to come up at the same time.
There will be mistakes.
So, exactly. So like I'm saying, like I think everything you said was correct, but like that's one thing in the offseason that like everybody just is the best in the offseason. You know, they're off to they're in the best shape of their lives. He's throwing it further than he ever has.
The Washington Commanders look good.
Exactly, the command for another year. The Carolina Panthers are ready to take that next step. You know, so like I'm just cautioning everybody out there. Like, yes, be excited about this season. Be jacked up about what you're going to see. Have some patience when you see him out there, because those great things, I do believe that you're going to see a good amount of them. And I don't know what the end result of this season is going to be, but it's still going to be some pretty fun football.
Oh, it's going to be high risk, high reward type of stuff. It's going to be that high wire act that we're going to see from the Colts. Now, I think
you hope it's medium risk.
You hope so,
right?
But you're going to see some really great things, and you're also going to be having those, as Andrew Luck always called them, the bonehead plays. That are going to be made here, and that's because, keep in mind, even though he is this athletic freak, he's this amazing athletic specimen and all that, the guy is essentially an NFL, from an experience level, he is essentially an NFL rookie, because he only played in a handful of games last year, and some of those games he played in, he didn't even make it all the way through those games.
Right. He played a total of 12 quarters, famously. That's something that Field Yates, ESPN's Field Yates, tweeted something out this week just as a fantasy update for fans out there who are into that.
That's 3 games.
Exactly. He played 3 games. He was still
173 snaps.
Yeah, he was still like. What was the exact stat? It was something about the running stats.
It was one touchdown for every 25 snaps. Is one of the things he mentioned.
That's pretty good.
Which is for most of these guys, it's one touchdown for every 50,
right?
55. So that's the thing is, and I think what's really important about the offseason now with Shane Steichen and these guys, with Richardson. Last year, I think in the back of the line, they knew he was going to be their quarterback, but you had Minshew. Now you've got Richardson every day, and I think they go back and look at tape and they said, we could do this with him. We can do this, and maybe they didn't know they could. There was a play the other day, I'm pretty sure it was 11 on 11 yesterday, and it was a design pass, and he rolls to his left a little bit, and there's nothing there. This is red zone, and he takes off, and he's at the goal line in a blink of an eye. And you think about, go back and I hate to bring up bad memories, but Jalen Hurts on the quarterback draw for the winning touchdown, was it 2 years ago? 2022.
Yeah, that was because that was for Frank. That was Nick Sirianni running off the field.
Yeah, that's Jeff Saturday era.
Who didn't see that coming? But that's red zone with a guy like that. Scramble drills. He's thrown some couple passes. You think don't throw back across the field, and he's got Josh Downs wide open, and he would have scored. So what that quarterback can do in the red zone is going to be really fun to watch, because he's the wild card. You put too much on him, and then somebody downs or somebody's wide open. Do you spy on him, which takes another defender out of the play? So
it's a lot of strain on your defense, man.
And that's what it is. In the run game, we've talked about this, stressing that end, either side of the end with Taylor and Richardson. It's going to be really fun to watch.
Some other notes from this first day of mandatory minicamp that we have seen. Joe Flacco's out there slinging it. He definitely does have an arm.
He looks good.
He does. Like when you compare him to Gardner Minshew last year too, like he looks the part of the quarterback. Gardner doesn't, and which makes his life in the NFL remarkable. It really does.
Absolutely.
Joe Flacco looks the part.
Gardner looks like a bowler.
Yes.
You just go up and you have a couple beers and then you knock some pins down. You go back and have another beer. Flacco, he looks like an NFL quarterback, which for so long he has been. But
right.
But on top of that, he's played well as the no question number 2.
Yeah. University of Delaware, go Blue Hens. Alec Pierce has put on a few pounds. He says trying to add strength as he should.
He said 5 pounds. Mm-hmm. He looks bigger.
He does?
He looks just.
Well, that's good.
He looks bigger.
Good.
So maybe it's reallocating the pounds he had.
All right.
If you can add on pounds. And he said the coaches thought maybe it would help him at the point of attack a little bit more, as long as you don't lose speed. Because again, we've talked about. I think Pierce has been the one guy whose progress has been most deterred by this offense.
Hamstrung.
There you go. I hate to use that because it's an injury. But that's why it's really going to be interesting to see. They still don't have, and we'll get to this in a minute, they still don't have the top 10 receiver. They don't. I mean, and I don't mean that to be shade on Pitt, but I like this group. I like this group about as much as I have for a long time as far as a collection of players.
Shane Steichen has said that he plans to completely detach after minicamp, before getting back to it in the in late July.
Right?
I didn't believe it when it came out of his mouth.
I know that's not possible. He maybe for like 3 minutes, and then he'll dive right back in.
He'll be sitting in his recliner and he'll start shaking.
Right. He's going to be like that guy who's had either one too many cups of caffeine or is jonesing for that next, I need another cup of coffee.
Flips over a cushion. He's got a whiteboard on it, and he starts sketching up a play.
Like, Shane. No. And he says he wants his players to enjoy their break, be smart, which, yes. This is the time. We've talked about this in the past, Chap. Like these 5-6 weeks, whatever it is, you just hope you don't get that call in the middle of the night that David Perry drove a golf cart into a fence in a gated community. Auto. Yeah, exactly. That was 2016. I forget exactly what the heck year that was, but I remember when it happened, and you're just like, oh, heaven's sakes. But that's like no coach, no GM wants a phone call at 2 a.m. over the next 5 weeks.
The only news that we need over the next between now and training camp is that AD Mitchell signed his contract.
Right.
That's it. And it'll get done because it'll get done. Again, I remind people Richardson's got done like 2 days before camp. It takes deadlines, even with these rookie deals that are slotted and pretty much foregone what you're going to get and how you're going to get it. It still takes deadlines. And the fact that he's participated in everything.
Yep. So
what's the hurry if you're the team to get it done? They've got to be dickering over guaranteed money. That's all there is to really, workout bonuses. I don't think so. Guaranteed money. It'll get done. Now you can participate. I'm sure they sign waivers. Training camp, you can't. If you're not signed in training camp, you really can't even be in Westfield.
Right.
You can't be on the premises, so it'll get done. They always get done. The days of Marshall Faulk and Edgerrin James and Bob Sanders are over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that'll happen, and we will see AD. Anybody ask him about Arch Manning yesterday?
No.
Somebody should ask him about Arch. I mean, I wasn't there. Maybe I would. I
good question. That's a good thought.
I know. It is a good.
Is he going to be the starter this year?
I think Quinn Ewers is still a starter. Like, I think it takes one more year down there.
Of course, he's making $3 million a year in NIL money, isn't he?
Why are you complaining? You can't complain. Yeah, you can do a lot worse than that. All right, one very interesting report to
kind of like an aside that turned into really?
Oh yeah, this week you mentioned, Chat, that you like the Colts receivers better than probably you have in a little while, based on guys getting better experience, maybe some additions as well. But this could have been a very different Colts receivers room this year. Adam Schefter reports this week that the Colts were among teams inquiring about a trade for Justin Jefferson. The Jets and 49ers also made inquiries, but the conversations, quote, went nowhere. So we'll throw that out there right at the beginning, that nothing piqued the Vikings' interest enough to take significant steps, or any steps really, forward. But Colts were among the teams that were at least showing interest in acquiring the now $140 million man with $110 million guaranteed. And if the Colts had paid that much, that would have been a stunning number.
So I would have fallen out of whatever I was sitting on at that point.
That they had Justin Jefferson. But like, this is something that we've talked about over the past. And when you have a young quarterback on a rookie contract, in order to get him to take the next step, you saw the Bills went out and got Stephon Diggs from the Vikings. You saw there are other examples that I'm just A.J. Brown. The Eagles went out and got A.J. Brown for Jalen Hurts. When you want young quarterbacks to develop properly, go out and get great talent for them to throw the ball to. And this certainly would have fit the bill. Chap, the Colts would not right now obviously have that type of money, but this would have been something early in the offseason that perhaps in the same vein as their pursuit of Daniel Hunter would have drastically changed the outlook for their offseason, who they could bring back, who they could re-sign. But nevertheless, it was something that they at least piqued their interest.
They at least made the phone call, which I think that's what you do. That probably led to DeForest Buckner back in 2020. You pick up the phone, you say,
right,
We kind of like this guy.
Before? Yeah, we like him.
What would it say? And it took the.
And the 49ers were interested in making that move happen. Because,
correct.
Yes.
Because Buck was in the last year of his contract.
Yes.
And it took, was it the 12th pick, 11th pick, 15th pick, whatever it was?
Somewhere in there, 12 to 15.
So, and I said at the time, if I can get a DeForest Buckner at his age for my first round pick almost every day.
Right.
Not a top 5 pick, but that pick. So we were talking yesterday, watching practice. It's really, really interesting trying to figure out the timeline. They had to make this call, whoever it was. I mean, Chris Ballard, Ed Dodds, whomever. They had to make this call prior to signing Michael Pittman. They just had to. It's all that makes sense. You don't sign Pitt to 3 years, $70 million, and say, "Oh, let's add another receiver," knowing it's going to cost us
110,
twice as much,
140. Yeah.
So I can see that, okay, because if they had made the trade, then Pitt's gone. He is. But keep in mind, then in the draft, Ballard admitted they had serious discussions to move up to get a receiver.
Yes.
Malik Neighbors.
Rome Odunze.
Odunze. Somebody.
Marvin Harrison Jr.
I think
At least they made a call.
I think that was a bridge too far. But it just tells us that at some level, Chris Ballard and the Colts had decided that we've got to deviate from what we've done at that position, because it wasn't really a surprise they gave Pitt the money they did. They needed to, and he earned it. But for this franchise to look into trading, whatever the interest was, high, low, whatever, Justin Jefferson. And then moving up that high, and it would have taken, Matt's got here. I'll let him talk about it. Well, first of all, it would have taken to get Justin Jefferson would have been prohibitive,
right?
Draft capital wise. Mm-hmm. Forget the $35 million a year. But
that's just also.
By the way, you gave up a zillion draft picks, and now you got to sign this guy. Although I tell you, I wonder if I'm betting that Jefferson wouldn't have got $35 million in March.
Probably not. Yeah.
I mean, but because I say the longer we get into this, Pittman's 23.3 looks pretty good.
Looks like a bargain now compared to some of these other contracts.
It's 12th in the league now. But then the fact that they were willing to I'm sure the draft move was 10 times more serious in intent than the Jefferson phone call.
Right.
They would have given up a boatload to move up to, 5?
Mm-hmm.
Move up to 5.
If Neighbors is the target, for example,
right.
He has to go up
to
5.
Well, but you would have had to move up to 5 to get one of those guys. You just would have. So, but it just shows you that, like Matt mentioned, when you've got the quarterback, doggone it, and you mentioned, surround him with people. Again, now whether we could, it's another podcast on whether it makes sense to invest $35 million a year in a receiver, and that's the market now. It just is. And now all of a sudden Tyreek Hill wants to redo his. He's only making $30 million a year. And by the way, CD Lamb.
Him and Jamar Chase.
Yeah, Jamar
CD
Chase.
Lamb had like 1,700 yards last year.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm one of those two guys, I'm calling my agent and say, well, we're starting at $35 million.
Say there's the bar.
Yep. There it is.
Let's clear it.
How high do you want to go? Whether it's $1, $5, whatever. Mm-hmm. But it just does, again, getting back to the Colts, it just shows you that they realize. And you can take it a step back with Jonathan Taylor, getting his, was it 43 years, $42 million, whatever it was. They realize that you have got to give the quarterback every chance to not succeed, but to really thrive.
Mm-hmm. Tyreek Hill, by the way, the trade for him that the Chiefs and Dolphins worked out back in the day.
I forgot how big it was.
A first-round pick, a second-round pick, a fourth-round pick, plus fourth and sixth round picks the following year. So that was 5 draft picks for Tyreek Hill, plus signing him to a deal
it would take a gun to Ballard's head to do that. It just would. You take a couple fingernails out. It would. I'm
surprised that he even made a call to inquire.
You do. You just call. And that's why I say I put so much more stock in the draft interest than Justin Jefferson, because when's the last time Tom Brady had Randy Moss and they threw for 25, whatever it was, touchdowns. They didn't make the Super Bowl that year.
Yep.
It's kind of like when's the last time the league rushing leader made the Super Bowl?
Oh, geez.
Was it? I think it was 05.
Yeah.
With Sean Alexander.
Yeah, I think it was.
So, in what it comes down to, you look at who the Chiefs have had the last couple of years. Just a bunch of guys since they got rid of Tyreek Hill, but you got a quarterback, and the quarterback makes all things possible. So, I think it's really interesting how the receiver market has just gone bonkers, and you've still got two extremely quality guys unsigned or looking for extension. 3 if you include Tyreek Hill. So I said at the time, I believe it even more, that Pitt's 3-year deal was win-win. It was probably what he deserved, had earned. And when he's 29, he's on the market again.
Yep, good for him. So he'll get a chance to take part of this this thing here.
They wouldn't have been able to get Justin Jefferson for a second-round pick like the Texans did for Diggs.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the Bills wanted to unload. There's a difference there in compensation. But because that was the other deal or the other big move that I was thinking of was Stephon Diggs going to the Texans. But it's in kind of a different class of how that went down.
The Bills got what they wanted from Stephon Diggs, and now he is gone.
Right. So they got something.
Yes.
They probably thought, second round? Really? Yeah. Okay, we'll take it.
Yes, for real. Also, Shane Steichen was asked about this report, this Justin Jefferson report, and he did not deny it. Well, we'll throw that out there, which is there's no doubt that it happened. And he called Jefferson a good player and said probably 31 other teams tried to trade for him. So
we know of at least 3, apparently.
Exactly. We know of at least 3, and there were probably more.
But again, I just want to drill home the fact that you make calls in the offseason. What if?
Right.
Sometimes it's nothing in this case, and sometimes you get DeForest Buckner. So that's what you do. I mean, you just don't do nothing during the offseason.
Crack the door open.
I'm sorry, Dave.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say there had also been some in-season rumblings about teams interested in Jefferson because they kind of knew that he was coming off his contract and maybe wanted to go somewhere else. Yeah. So that also matches up.
Yeah. Anytime there's a player who's going to reset the market, and the Vikings were never they never were publicly, he's definitely staying here. It didn't seem like that sense came from them. So it was always like, he's a really good player. We're focused on this year, blah, blah, blah. So, which you understand. So anytime a team kind of leaves the door open, other teams are going to kind of see if they can stick their foot in it.
But I think internally they knew this was going to get done.
I think so too.
It's one that it just wasn't out there. And if I'm not mistaken, Jefferson announced it on Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, he sent out a video.
Right.
Yeah.
So which is kind of cool nowadays where the player actually scoops the scoopers.
Take that,
buddies.
Schefter.
So yeah, really. So yeah, but good for him. And he seems like a pretty good guy. He said, I've got to be the leader now and all this stuff. So good for him. And again, like I say, this is a good time to be a receiver, a very good time.
No doubt. And we mentioned Anthony Richardson made an appearance on the Pat McAfee Show. He's up to 255 pounds, like you said. I think he added all the weight that Tua Tagovailoa lost. So
what did he lose?
I don't know, but he does not look
Somebody
the same.
said that they were talking to was it Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill? And there was during these times you get players that bring them out and you're talking to somebody and there's somebody in the bullpen waiting. They said that he looked over and it didn't initially hit him who it was, and it was Tua. And I would think that if I'm talking to Marvin Harrison and Peyton's over here, of course you never waited. Peyton never waited.
Right.
You shut things. But the fact that he didn't recognize that he was their starting quarterback. I mean, did he lose 20 pounds? I don't know.
He lost a fair share. And like I said, if you've seen pictures or videos, he does not look the same, especially in some pictures. Pictures can be a little deceiving. Video's a little bit better. Yeah. You can tell it better, obviously. But there are some pictures that were taken. I was like, that does not look like him at all. So anyway, off that aside, Anthony Richardson on the Pat McAfee Show. Let's see. Let's see. He said the same thing. Let me see.
He basically.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I would say he said that he wasn't trying to get bigger or anything like that to like try to beef up to avoid injury. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of one of those things that it's just he's added some muscle and
you
he's
get
a
with
little
the
bit bigger.
dietitian people at the team, and all of a sudden, when you start eating probably better. Mm-hmm. You put on a little bit of weight. Maybe that's with the thing with Alec Pierce.
And he also said he didn't have a personal chef during that. And Pat's like, well, that's good, but they're gonna make you get one at some point. And then when I said said the same thing about his playing style, the same thing that we've heard him say throughout the year in this offseason is that he doesn't really expect it to change all that much. Although he did say that Steichen had gone through a couple of plays with him where like here. You could have gone out of bounds, and like here in the Texans game, sprint through the finish line on that play. Then you don't get hit, you don't have the concussion, you don't have to miss the next week, that sort of stuff.
Like we've said in the past, Chap, that the Colts aren't gonna draft this unicorn player and not use his unicorn
and turn
talents.
him into Joe Flacco.
Exactly, that's not gonna happen. So you're gonna have to, if you're a Colts fan, live with the drama and the tension of him taking off. And that's what Baltimore Ravens fans have lived with for the past 5-6 years, however long.
To a lesser degree, Philly with Jalen Hurts.
Yep, 100%. Same thing. You're right. So get used to it. Get used to the tension. Get used to the excitement that comes with it.
Get used to holding your breath when he gets hit, that he gets up.
Yep. And here I understand, based on what happened with the last franchise quarterback, how tense people are going to be in those situations. Like, I get it. I completely get it. But this is the guy that's got to do that. He's not going to be a pocket passer because he has more talents.
We had the same discussions with Andrew Luck, that last franchise quarterback, about the it's so cool. He's got that linebacker mentality. Well, good. And there are times you need that. But don't although a lot of Luck's problems were in the pocket when he just got pulverized.
Just crushed
and
so many times.
Right. But the thing that Richardson adds is that dimension that we talked about is that most quarterbacks don't have. Mahomes doesn't really possess. He's mobile and he'll hurt you, but it's different. Richardson will be part of their run game. He will. He'll probably be their second leading rusher. Mm-hmm. He probably needs it to be. Look at the league's top rushing teams. It's Baltimore, it's Philly, it's Arizona with Murray, it's Buffalo with Josh Allen, the quarterback Josh Allen. So you want, it's incumbent upon the team. You said high risk, high reward, and again it needs to be medium reward.
I don't want him to be high risk. It's just you're feast or famine with Richardson. I guess is a better way to put it.
But you're going to maximize. You're going to find, and it's going to be incumbent upon Richardson to realize when enough is enough. And I thought it was maybe a preseason game or whatever where he, instead of going out of bounds, he kind of cut back inside. Don't do that.
Right.
Don't need to.
For 3 more yards? No. Yeah. Now if it's
for a first down,
don't Gardner Minshew it and go down.
Right.
Head first. But this is all going to come back to Richardson. How much has he, I guess, bought in? I don't know. Or readapted his game to where, again, knowing enough's enough. I always go back to Edgerrin James, and he said his first year he tried to get every freaking yard he could.
Right.
Year 2, he thought, if it's 3rd and 2, I'll get 3 and then I'm done. Mm-hmm. Unless it's there. So you're already at a risky position. You're a risk-driven quarterback because that's what you are, but just know when enough is enough.
And he basically also said that and he said this again before, this is not anything that's a revelation, but he feels that the injuries that he did suffer during the season, and especially that shoulder injury, was just kind of a football play that happened, and it was an unfortunate thing. That he's not running out there like a maniac trying to make plays and get hurt. That's not necessarily his style, but his style does lend to contact, and correct. Contact can lead to injuries.
He estimated his shoulder right now is at 95% strength, so he's made it that far in just a couple months, and will be 100% by the regular season. Said it's going to be scary this year when it comes to teaming up with Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, and that's exactly what the Colts want. That's exactly what they expect. So we'll see when it comes to the season exactly how that's going to play out. We'll get a good look, I think, in training camp since we'll be out there every day, and they'll have to run some of what they're going to run this season with those two back there. Don't know how much we'll see in the preseason itself, the actual games.
How much does he need to play?
Exactly. We don't know how much they're going to play together.
How much does Flacco play?
How much does Taylor play, for crying out loud?
Oh,
our attention this offseason has been so much off Jonathan Taylor because it's been on Michael Pittman getting his contract, some of the rookies, AD Mitchell, maybe even a little bit on Jelani Woods coming back and Drew Ogletree as well, on Anthony Richardson recovering. Jonathan Taylor has been very much under the radar, but at the same time, you could ask how much he needs to play during the preseason because I don't think
very
he needs to
little.
play that much. Exactly. Does he need to play any? Keep him with the joint practices where you can control the chaos a little bit more, and don't send him out there in the game. I think as a Colts, if I was a Colts fan, I would be completely fine with that. I know I want to see him as much as possible, and that includes preseason games. But Taylor is in very much the same boat. Don't put him out there when you absolutely don't need to. That's how I feel.
I've always thought like a running back, maybe a receiver, but a running back, I want the first significant hit to not be on opening day in the first quarter. So get that hit and get the feel back to how it is to secure the ball and all that. But again, Edgerrin James he joked he always had that preseason hamstring, to where it's just not quite right. So and I don't know how much other than his rookie year he played in preseason. Some guys need it. They do. I don't think they're going to expose Richardson much. That's what the league is going towards scrimmages. That's right. Where they're going to, which is a good thing. Again, like you said, it's controlled.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think you're still not – it's live, but it's not – let's put a lick on the running back unless you're playing the short yardage and all that. So I think he'll get more than enough work and contact in the scrimmages with who is it, Arizona?
And Cincinnati.
And Cincinnati.
Yeah.
You'll get more than enough to where you hate to lose anybody. Losing Daniel Scott,
it's awful.
If it's in week 3, it sucks, but it's week 3.
Yeah.
Off season, you can't. There have been 2 or 3 guys that have had around the league have had an Achilles or an ACL, and you just hate to see it. Not in preseason.
Right.
Get these guys ready in training camp, scrimmages. Yeah. And then get ready for the opener.
Yeah, like you said, some guys want to be out there. As Grover Stewart says, he gets out there, chokes a few dudes out, and then he's ready to go. So
is he great or what?
I love Grover. He's the best, the absolute best. One more note from the Pat McAfee Show. Anthony Richardson said he has a massive back tattoo that he got that took 7 hours, involved 4 tattoo artists, and he was in the process. He was asleep during this whole thing.
Holy smokes!
That's how serious
massive.
It was. That's crazy to be put under as you're getting a tattoo. I don't know. It's not my style. So obviously,
Dave, I know, right? You've got those sleeves
underneath my my shirt here.
I remember a Colts offensive lineman. For some reason, all I remember is the last name Thornton, and I'm just
Hugh Thornton.
Hugh Thornton.
There we go.
And his last year here, he had gone out and gotten a big lion. I mean, the face of a lion with the big mane. And it was in his entire back. And with a line with him, he'd go back there and he would flex to where the back would get twice as big, the old Hulk back. It was amazing. He never said if he got put under. I mean, maybe you should have had some of the procedure done while you're under. Well, I'm under. Could you go ahead and take care of this?
Go ahead and clean out the knee a little bit while you're at it.
But we'll have to. I hadn't heard that, so that's interesting. But that's Richardson. That's who he is, and good for him.
Yes, I learned about it first when I saw a video on social media about it because the tattoo parlor that did it did a little montage video of the 4 artists working on him, and then
what's the picture of? Do you know?
It's kind of this montage. I'm trying to recall. There's a bunch of different aspects to it.
That's cool.
It's really elaborate.
CJ Stroud keeps talking about the Colts this offseason, guys. I think they're in his head.
Can't help himself.
Can't help it. During a recent podcast, Stroud says, quote, "Indy hates me already, and I love it." You know what? I love it, too.
He's yapping with EJ Speed.
Yep.
I mean, where do you think that's going to go?
Right. EJ's not going to shut up.
No,
I'll tell you that. So he said about EJ, you could have shut me up right there during the season, and you didn't. And if you do, I'm going to come back. So Colts legend Robert Mathis also weighing in on this because he has a slight Twitter presence himself, saying, quote, talking reckless to Colts pass rushers. This is indeed a new day, and I look forward to our rushers' response week 1 at home. The tension is building already to see
and you know, it's big talk, but these guys have to beat Houston.
Yep.
I think the AFC South now, it does go through Houston. So, you know, the best way to shut them up is to, you know, shut them up.
You're right.
I mean, based on their offseason, isn't it 17-0 for the Texans, and it starts with the Colts in week 1.
That's
so
right. 17-0
Can't win them
bust.
all unless you win the first one.
That's right. Well, at some point in this season, the Colts will honor legend Dallas Clark.
October 20th.
October 20th.
Miami.
In the home game against Miami. Week 7 of this season as the newest inductee into the franchise Ring of Honor. 11 seasons with the Colts. He was part of that Super Bowl winning team, of course. He is the all-time leader in receptions and tight ends for the Colts.
Touchdowns among tight ends.
Sorry about that. I don't know what I just said. 427 receptions, 46 touchdowns. He was Pro Bowl. He was AP All-Pro in 2009, where he had 100 catches, 10 touchdowns, and more than 1,100 yards. Chap, in terms of what Dallas Clark brought to this offense, there's obviously the great receivers on the outside. How would you explain his impact on the field?
I remember Bill Polian telling us that he thought Clark was the missing piece. You know, he's joining a team that's got Peyton, Edgerrin, Marvin, Reggie. Marcus Pollard was still here, but he just thought that what Clark could do, which we're seeing in the league. We saw it before with Gonzalez and Antonio Gates, but now you see with Kelsey and all these guys, Andrews, getting down the field. And someone put a clip out of Clark's highlights, and you forget how hard he was to bring down the yards after the catch. So really amazing. Like you said, he was first among tight ends in franchise history that has, you know, John Mackey in their history. That's who Mackey. Yeah, that's who he's second with in yards is Mackey. So really great. I had a really good talk with him, and I've talked to these guys before when they found out, and they're just over the moon enthused. He couldn't talk. I said, "What did it mean to you when he got the call?" And he was bordering on crying. That's what it meant to him. He's just a really nice guy. He was at an eye with one of his kids' baseball games. But whenever this comes up, the talk is always, well, who's next?
Yep.
And Bob Sanders, T.Y. Hilton, Andrew Luck. I think Adam Vinatieri maybe. Mm-hmm. If they do it a guy next year, because I think there's a chance Vinny goes into the Hall of Fame, into the
right
Canton,
Hall of Fame,
into the really Mm-hmm. So, but I think it's interesting, and I always keep saying I wish they would find a way to put a pre-Manning Colt in, but we'll see where that goes. But kudos to Dallas, just a great guy. One thing, he played 11 years in the NFL. He played 9 with the Colts because he went and played with Tampa and
Baltimore, I think.
Yes, he went to Baltimore and then to Tampa, I think it was. So good for him, good guy. And the most important thing is he's got his health.
Yeah.
You know, no surgeries. And I was always, still am to some degree, worried about him. Goodness, he had 5, 6, 7 concussions because Peyton kept leading him into that safety. Mm-hmm. You know, and Peyton would say, catch it.
Yep. That's your job.
Yeah, right. And then I always say, well, if I'm Dallas, you run that route and I'll throw it to you. And you catch the ball. But good guy. It just shows you the incredible talent that team had in the 2000s. It's just amazing.
Reggie Wayne added his congrats on Twitter, like replying to the Colts tweet saying, "This is the day I've been waiting on. Want to talk about a teammate. This is the ultimate teammate. Super selfless. Never seen a bad day, at least in my eyes. Always smiling when you walk in the door. The glue that kept us together. the epitome of a Colt. That is high praise.
And Peyton said the same thing, not to that extent. And again, talking to Dallas was so cool. And whenever you talk to these guys, conversations and things come up. And the funniest part of Dallas Clark, when he first got here, young kid, and he said, I'm just looking in the huddle, I'm just, these are the dudes. And now he's one of the dudes in the Ring of Honor. But he said, and I said, I remember when you first got here for the first minicamp, he had the Colts equipment guys call Iowa and say, give, I want all the pads that I wore to Iowa. So he wore everything, hip pads, knee pads, big thick shoulder pads, and he had the neck roll.
Yes, the neck roll.
And he's starting to go out to practice, and Peyton stopped him in the hallway. He said, man, what are you doing? And you can just see Peyton, you're taking the neck roll off and because Peyton wanted fast.
Right.
You know, and Dallas said, I never felt dumber. And he said you could judge my year. He said, it's like with a tree in the rings. You could gauge what year I was in by how little equipment I had, because every year I stripped something else off. And the Colts put the picture out of Dallas raising his hands, and he ain't got much. He is extremely slim on pads.
Yeah. He was an incredible player. He really, I remember just watching him growing up. And if a defense just focused too much on the outside
with Marvin and Reggie,
exactly, right up the seam, boom,
right.
There's Dallas Clark going for 35 yards. And just a reminder that you gotta cover everywhere against this Colts team, because they're going to take advantage of it everywhere. One of the stories that I like that I saw just a reminder of was he was number 44, obviously, Dallas Clark. Chap remembers the story already. But he didn't think he'd be able to get 44 when he played, when he came out of college for the Colts. So he's there with Bill Polian, and he's talking about numbers. And he's like, you know what? I'll just double it. I'll take number 88. And Polian's like, Marvin Harrison wears that number.
So I don't think he's giving it up.
Yeah. So Dallas tried to. He was trying to be nice. Actually, he was trying to be like, "Oh, I won't take my number. That might pose a problem. I don't know if tight ends could wear 44. I'll just take 88." Wrong. Not going to work. And then he was 44 and became arguably the best tight end in Colts history. Certainly one of the top two. Throw him there with John Mackey.
I would still take Mackey. Yeah, but because of a different era. But
yeah, Syracuse legend John Mackey.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
I guess I don't remember that.
Yep.
You remember all those guys.
Well, I have to. I'm contractually obligated to bring it up every time.
So he gets a remote electroshock, I believe, if he doesn't mention but Syracuse.
Yeah. I said at the beginning of the podcast that we might do some pro football focused lists, but we do not have time for that today. We'll push it back to next week, and we're going to need some more content in the coming weeks, probably. We might not be doing every week here during the offseason because, like Shane Steichen, we're actually going to take some time off, perhaps.
We'll actually take time off.
Yeah, unlike Shane Steichen, I should say. So, like the players, we will actually take some time off over these next 5-6 weeks before training camp ramps up back again, and we return to Grand Park for the end of July and all of August.
I think they're supposed to report that Tuesday, the last Tuesday of July.
See, I checked last year just to see when they made their announcement. It was at the end of June that they announced their training camp
official
for Westfield.
Yeah, so
I'm sure it'll come out in little,
it'll matriculate
bursts.
out of the Colts Twitter account over the coming weeks, so the people are prepared to be out there and to see the Colts get ready for a new season once again. So we will be back next week for all of Mike's work online. You can read his content at fox59.com and cbs4indy.com. Follow him on Twitter at mchappell51. Matt Adams is at Statamatty. I'm Dave Griffiths at DaveG_sports. Follow us together at Colts Blue Zone, and we'll see you next week on the Colts Blue Zone podcast.